Today, we're pleased to welcome Paolo Leone, who is a brand strategist and a creative collaborator. He also does a lot of work as a brand mentor with CAFA. And Paolo, can you maybe tell us what CAFA is and the work you do with that and its significance?
Sure. So CAFA stands for the Canadian Arts and Fashion Awards. It's a platform co-founded by Brittany and Vicky Muner. I'm not going to try to say Brittany's last name just because I mess it up all the time. So these two very talented Canadians, they created this platform to help promote and create awareness of Canadian fashion. It's a category that, I think doesn't have a lot of recognition. So they created this platform to celebrate the outstanding fashion that resides within our country and create business opportunities for designers.
How has the pandemic personally affected you?
Oh, me? Oh my God. It's funny because surprisingly, I'm doing really well. But it's funny because most people know me from being a very social person. As you know, Ken, I see you a lot in the social events of Toronto. And a lot of people were calling me and asking me like how I was doing, really worried. And I think what most people don't know is that I'm actually a loner and I really enjoy time by myself. So I think that this pandemic and this quarantine has almost like made me discover that I need a reset, something that I actually didn't realize that I needed until now. Made me realize how distracted I was just before the pandemic, and allowing right now for me to stay very focused and really focus on the people that I love, projects that I'm really interested in, and subject matters like fashion, the things that I actually really enjoy. I'm actually like very grateful for this time. I hate the fact that it has come at the expense of a lot of lives and a lot of businesses, but personally, I'm trying to make the most of it.
But you are such a world traveler and used to travel to great destinations, and I would follow you just to see where you've gone around the world. How's that, affected you?
I think that's the biggest challenge. It's so funny because I was just talking to a friend the other day, and like one of the reasons why I went independent, I used to be with the agencies, and 3 years ago I went independent. And one of the biggest reasons why I went independent was because I wanted to travel, and I have these ambitious goals of visiting every single country before I die. And now I feel like that goal is going to be more challenging than ever to achieve. So to be honest with you, I think I'm just like traveling through pictures and Facebook memories. And I think I'm doing the biggest travel of them all, which is inwards. I'm really enjoying this time right now to really work on myself. I'm doing a lot of reading, a lot of meditation. A friend of mine, Jenny Bird, who's one of the best Canadian designers, a winner of CAFA, a jewelry designer. She invited me to be a part of this group called 21 Days of Abundance from Chipak, what is it called? Deepak Chopra?
Yeah.
I always mess up names. And I'm, really enjoying that exercise and really, trying to work on myself and better myself, and in hopes that I will come out a better person after this.
Paolo, you've spoken before, well, not too long before, the pandemic has not been with us that time, but about how shopping is going to change.
Mm-hmm.
And can you tell us what your thoughts on that? And is that shopping in general, or is that shopping for fashion?
I think it's in general. Actually, first, I would like to tell anyone in fashion or in retail that I really feel for them. Like I know we have all seen like how many business have been sacrificed and how many jobs have been lost. So I just want to tell them that I feel for them. That said, I do think that this pandemic is basically just accelerating changes that I think we all saw coming, in the future. And I think that the right attitude right now is to just really try to make the most of it and look inside your business, check your practices and your model, and try to reinvent yourself. No one really knows how this recovery takes shape or when it's going to fully happen. So please take whatever we say here with a grain of salt, because I think we're all trying to figure it out. But to me, two key factors should have the biggest impact in all sorts of shop. One is consumers, they will be extremely cautious to come to public spaces and share public spaces with other people. So the role of the physical store is going to change dramatically. And then second, I think consumers are going to be also still feeling very anxious about their finance and much cautious when it comes to discretionary spending. So when I look at those two key factors, I think they're going to impact three ways any kind of shopping. I don't think just fashion, I think any kind of shopping. One is how we shop. The other one is what we shop for. And I think the third one is where we shop. So when we speak about how we shop, I think we have already seen like a lot of people, because of the stores being closed, everybody's migrating to the online shopping experience, whether for their desktop, laptop, or mobile. And because they will be like reluctant to rush back to brick and mortar, I think even after this pandemic, I think a lot of the brands are already like trying to improve and amping their online experience, trying to make it as seamless as possible. And I think if you think that just having like an e-commerce site or a good return policies in place are good enough, I think you're missing the mark a little bit. I think that the most progressive brands are already incorporating like AR and VR capabilities into their online experience, with the idea to really try to replicate that kind of physical experience and give as much of a realistic try-on experience as possible to help consumers actually like to help them make their minds and get them to buy. When it comes to what we shop for, I think the fact that we're spending a lot of time at home and communicating through our screens, whether it's connecting virtually with friends and family or just working remotely, I think that the emphasis right now really is what we call the above the waistline dressing. Even me talking to you guys here right now, it's so hard because, I know that I'm supposed to be looking at the thing, but I can help to look at that little square here and check myself how I'm looking, all that jazz. It's just part of human nature. So when you think about the fact that, let's say that you're working remotely, you're working from home, and you have to spend like 7 to 8 to 9 hours actually staring at yourself, I think that appetite to make sure that you look differently every time, I think presents great opportunity for anybody who's producing, tops, hair accessories, jewelry, prescription glasses, so I think that, it's funny because even if I was part of a product development team behind, a fashion brand, I'll be working on the two pieces, like the next like two pieces must have, where it's like, pants that are super relaxed and comfortable, and a top that it's super like high impact, try to create that kind of the new norm. And then when it comes to where we shop, watch out for the rise, what I call the rise of the postal code, as the key criteria in the decision-making process. With economies worldwide being highly impacted by this pandemic and international borders a lot of them like just closing, I think there's going to be a huge appetite to shop local. And I'm not just referring to protectionism that it just stays at the national level. I think it's going to go much deeper than that. It's going to go all the way to the neighborhood level. So let's say if I'm looking for a sweater, chances are I'll most likely choose Roots over American Apparel. But not only that, I think after this pandemic, I think I'm going to be choosing a neighborhood store like Province of Canada in Leslieville over Roots. That notion of, I think we have all seen the devastating impact that a lot of that this pandemic has had on a lot of local businesses, and I think that's going to be a huge movement that I call not just like shop local, but it's almost like shopper hyper local. So if you're a local brand and you're able to survive this pandemic, now is the time to build on your small size to drive up the appeal of your brand and really make a big impact.
Paulo, in the past, we as Canadians really haven't supported our local designers or our Canadian designers. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's going to be a trend to sort of support and help local designers to get them going? We have many examples of how designers have had to go to Europe, get a branded name and establish their name outside of Canada, and then come back.
Yeah, I think, it's unfortunate that that's a reality. I think it's just part of a little bit of the Canadian fabric, where sometimes we really need international validation before we started to fully appreciate the talent that we have here. But it's funny because every time I think of a category, I always think of all the categories around it. So, you know, you may think that sports has nothing to do with fashion, but, you know, I actually, like, I would challenge that. Even the, you know, the Raptors winning the NBA championships, I think all these kind of, it's not a small wins, it's big wins. All these kind of big wins, but some people may consider like in isolation. I actually think that all those things actually really help to instill that confidence, national confidence in Canadians, that we actually don't need to look elsewhere. And I do think that, to your point, Ken, I think that this, if anything, from a fashion perspective or any sort of product perspective, I actually think that this pandemic has almost like it's become the perfect storm for us to really look inside before we look elsewhere. From a Canadian fashion perspective, my God, there's so, you know, even for this experience that I have had, you know, thanks to the Canadian Arts and Fashion Awards and Wear Canada Proud, I myself have you know, been surprised of how much talent already resides here. We really don't need to look elsewhere. Whether you are into, you know, fancy gowns, like, or something more relaxed, or something a bit more edgy, there's something for everyone here in Canada, from coast to coast. And I think that consumers are really going to be delightfully surprised to realize how rich Canadian fashion is, how much breadth and depth there is already in our country.
Paulo, you talked earlier about AR and VR playing a bigger role in the sales process. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because shopping for clothes is a very experiential thing. You want to touch them, you want to try them on, you want to see how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
If the fit's a little off, it doesn't work. So how are those tools being used? Because to me, it sounds like if you're going to buy your clothes online from now on, you got to be prepared to compromise. You might get something that's not right, and then do you send it back, which is a huge hassle, or do you just keep it and live with it?
Yeah, it's interesting that you touch on that, because even if you know, we have all been hearing about the death of brick and mortar. We've all been hearing about how brick and mortar need to reinvent themselves. And interestingly enough, the biggest thing that has always kept brick and mortar alive was the fact that it could deliver something that no online experience could deliver, which is the touch. That ability to actually touch a product and feel and try a product, actually make your decision. So here comes a virus that says, like, do not touch anything, otherwise you have the risk of contracting the virus. And I think that now brick and mortar is really, like, all brands that have a physical store location are really challenged to actually think about, like, okay, so if people are not going to come here because they can't touch the product, what it is that we offer. And I think that, you know, that's going to take brick and mortar to a completely, for personally, I think, again, it's hard to tell, but first I would think that brick and mortar is going to become much more of an immersive experience that is going to transport people in a very branded and controlled environment to places. They create this fantasy around the products that I feel compare enough to actually grab that untouched bag and go home and then try the product at home. I think it's going to take brick and mortar much closer to some sort of like almost like a concept store or like a museum. It's going to be less about the touch and more about all the other senses.
It sounds like the confluence of entertainment and retail.
100%. And we all know, we have always been talking about, you know, consumers, especially the youngest ones, gravitating towards experience over possessions and all that jazz. But I actually think that now really they're going to be before us. It's going to be much integration in terms of like, it's almost like thinking about Cineplex meets fashion store meets gaming company meets immersive VR, AR experiences. And then to answer your original question in terms of the AR and VR experience, technology being incorporated into the online shopping experience. There are apps out there like Zicket, Dress, or COVID. And again, by the way, Asia is already so ahead of us when it comes to that, as always, from a technology perspective. But it's like what these apps do is they allow you to pretty much, like, what they're trying to do is make you see yourself trying that product. So instead of just me looking at very kind of, you know, two-dimensional flat shots of models wearing the product, I'm going to be able to actually see myself wearing that product. The idea here is to create a more realistic try-on process online, so that there's no gap in terms of consumers like wanting to buy and actually pushing that button that says like buy it.
Interesting. Is there something that you think is going to be, one of the topics that we've spoken about before is the idea of friends and family shopping. Do you want to explain what that is?
Yeah. So, and again, this is, I read stuff and I extrapolate stuff, and I think about for myself as a consumer and as a marketer and as a strategist. And, I can't help but to think like, one of the consequences of this pandemic is that me as a consumer, I'm going to be much more reluctant to want to go into public space and touch things and even like rub shoulders with people that I don't know where they have been. And again, something that I think it's going to continue at least until we find a vaccine for this virus. So, when I think about when these stores are given the license to actually open their physical stores, I'm like, what's going to happen if people don't show up? And I think that one of the things that we may end up seeing is the notion of only friends and family, but not friends and family of the brand, but family and friends of you, the consumer. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were like by appointment only, very curated experiences where I go to for instance, like some of my most devoted, best clients and say like, hey, our store is going to be open today from 4 to 5 for you to come with your friends and family. So that increases the chance, not only increases the chance of me going to the store, because now I know it's just me and people that I know, that I feel comfortable, that I know are not carrying the virus, but also like what I think it does, it creates an opportunity for brands because it creates that special occasion where it's just like me and my friends. So who doesn't want it? It's almost like that exclusive, it's a little bit of that, bring back that exclusive idea of, a store open, you're staying too later open, just to meet the unique needs of a very specific clientele. I just think it's almost like this creates an opportunity to take that concept and make it like more mainstream. Because again, I would doubt that the store just going to sit there and wait for people to come because they may just never show up. So I think they need to give that extra reason for people to come and feel comfortable in their environment.
In general, I am an optimist. And it really, looking out into the future, it's difficult. Even the famous little black dress. How many little black dresses do I need to buy? Because I'm not going out to events anymore. And I'm not going to publicly go to all these places where I used to be seen. And Paulo, I'm going to see you, rather than seeing you once a month, I may see you once a year. And how many little black dresses do I need? So I am, again, just to talk about your trending of the future for designers, where they're headed.
Just to be clear, sorry to Paulo, Ken doesn't actually prance around in little black dresses. It's a rhetorical sort of.
Oh my God, this is so hard because again, I think that these reset and it challenged so many of the conventions, right? When you think about fashion, the fashion industry, seasonality, calendar, like it's again challenge consumers in terms of like how many pieces of clothes do we need? Like I was reading about the Great Depression, and they had this motto at the end. I think I have it here somewhere. Hold on a second. And they had this motto after the Great Depression. Hold on a second. Just give me one. Which was use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. And I think it's so, I'm like, wow, I can't believe like same stuff that happened like a long time ago. And it's now like, we have had time, this pandemic, it has given us time to spend a lot of time in front of our closets, like a lot of time for us to realize like how much we have or how much we don't need. I think that, to your point, like how many mini black dresses do I need? I think that, I think it's the end of the more era. Like I think we're creating like I think this is the time for the waste nothing consumer. Of course, you always have the people that need to constantly buy in order to validate the success in their lives. But I think that for the majority of us consumers, I think that we're going to be come out of these crises much more mindful on where we spend our money, you know, and how much do we need in order to survive. For instance, I know I can only speak from my personal experience. Like, I went through my closet and I purged, like, I would say, like, I got rid of at least 55% of my clothes. And if this stays longer, I'm gonna get rid of more. And I didn't buy anything. The only thing that I bought was gym equipment, because I was really afraid of gaining a lot of you know, pounds, as I have done, and some books, but that's about it.
So you think that there's going to be a greater sense of moderation in the purchasing intentions of people?
I think so too. I definitely think so. I think we're going to be, again, there's so many factors that are going there, right? The better understanding of the impact that fashion has on climate and the environment. People feeling anxious about their finances. People feeling mindful of the fact that there are other people that are really struggling to just survive, you know, put bread and food in their table. So this notion of, when I think about the whole concept of social media, which is like, you know, go to Instagram and brag about your beautiful life, you know, and what a lavish life you're having, that seems just so inappropriate at a time like this. I think that, I don't know, you never know where humankind is going to go, but I really hope that we come out better, and that we just watch our attitudes and, you know, and behaviors coming out of this.
So go ahead. No, go ahead, Ken.
I was going to say, you know, do you have any sort of kind of final thoughts on just the trend in the industry? You know, while you were talking, I was thinking about the fact that there was an article that Apple's going to change the environment of the Apple Store. Tim Hortons is changing the environment of all Tim Hortons going forward. And just, you know, what are your sort of final thoughts on, you know, every brand has this shift going on?
I guess my final thought, like, I'm just excited. I'm excited for what is going to come out of this. I would hate for, and again, it's funny because we talk brands, but at the end of the day, behind brands are people, right? So I'm just excited to see. I hope that we all, like, you know, whether it's in the most basic individual level, as just you as an individual human being, or you or whatever business you or a team or a company, you know, like, I just hope that we're all taking advantage of this time and again, really look at how things were done before and see, like, what it is that I can do here to improve the way we actually do business, or the way I live, or the way I interact with people, or the way I, you know, collaborate with people, you know, like, I just can't wait to see the kind of innovation that comes out of it. It can be like super basic stuff, like mobile grocery. I saw the other day, like mobile grocery trucks, you know, like that goes into the neighborhoods instead of waiting for people to go to Loblaws. There's now a Lobo, you know, almost like an ice cream kind of thing. And I'm just like, simple things like this, all the way to, again, big things, you know, like the way, I don't know. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, you know, you're talking about looking forward to the excitement of what's going to be created out of the pandemic, and it's sort of like, you know, when there's a forest fire, that's a tragic thing. You lose a lot of trees and undergrowth and all that sort of thing, but then it starts to regrow, and you see the magic of the new stuff come about. It's horrible that it's being done on, you know, because something so terrible is sweeping around the world, but at least there's a silver lining to it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great analogy.
Well,
like, sorry, yeah, like one thing that it's funny, because I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, you know, as we spend more and more times communicating or connecting or working from home and through the screens, and always like appearing like this and looking, I'm like, you know, and to tap into my passion for traveling, Ken, as you know, I was like, would it be amazing if, you know, I don't know, an app like Zoom, partner with a game company, and we all had out of a sudden these avatars. And I can actually pretty much every day I can use my avatar and pick whatever brand that I want, and I can dress myself however I want. And imagine if you took that one step further, and out of a sudden I'm connected with Ken and say like, hey, let's go to our brainstorm, and I can take you, like, we can go to Tokyo and have a brainstorm in Tokyo. Like I can't, like, I don't know, like I'm hopeful, and I'm hopeful that some companies that just, when we talk about accelerating changes, I'm just hoping that some people are just gonna come with some stuff that you go like, oh my God, this is so future, like, but a lot of this technology is already there, like a lot of, it's almost like it's a parallel to everybody trying to find the vaccine in a much more compressed, time. I think that this is us speaking all these things that we thought was just going to happen like in the very far future, and going like right now, like I would love even to have this podcast conversation in a beach in Brazil, and we can be wearing whatever we want, so
cool.
I'm excited. I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, maybe not Brazil just because of how they're handling the pandemic there, but
I know. Oh, trust me, don't even get me started that one.
Yeah. Paolo Leone, brand strategist, creative collaborator, mentor at CAFA. Thank you very much for joining us. It was a very entertaining, very informative conversation. Really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you so for having me. It was really nice. I love talking to smart people, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.